وعدناكم أن نعرف التاريخ كما لم نعرفه من قبل، ونقرأه كما لم نقرأه من قبل، ونسمعه كما لم نسمعه من قبل. لم نعرف التاريخ الحقيقي من قبل لأن المؤسسات الثقافية المسيسة في الغرب كتبته كما نعرفه اليوم، ولاعتبارات سياسية وعنصرية قاموا بتزييفه وبالتعتيم على الحقائق.
I do believe that there was a sense of reality in the story that is written in the Old Testament. I do believe that Israelites, people, the Hebrew, stayed in Egypt during New Kingdom time. The word for
during the New Kingdom.
Yes, during the New.
Why you specifically specified the New Kingdom?
Because that's the first reference to the word of Israel, which you find on the Israel stela of Meremta, found in his mortuary temple in Luxor.
Excuse me for this interruption. The victory stela of Meremta refers to Israel as a tribe.
As a tribe.
Being vanquished.
Yes.
Terminated.
Yes. That's
outside
correct.
of Egypt, in a land maybe called Canaan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on the
That's hardly a parallel to the Exodus. I mean,
you're correct, but let's try to get into the history a little further back. So to the 18th dynasty, because we're talking about Meremta 19th dynasty. And there is, of course, a lot of evidence that by victory of Thutmose III, the whole region of the Near East, well, especially Canaan and even running up
excuse me, Professor, by Canaan, by Canaan, what do you mean geographically speaking?
Geographically, the Levant, so what is now Syria, Palestine area.
Excuse me again, but at that time, at that ancient time, this area, the Levant, which is now Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine, was not called Canaan.
Oh, but it was conquered by the...
No, this is another point.
It was...
I'm talking about the terminology here.
Okay.
You refer to the Meremta stela.
Yeah, first.
Which specifically, without any doubt, refers to Canaan.
Yeah.
And some tribes, one of which was Israel, was conquered by the king Meremta.
Yeah.
Canaan was a land geographically not located in the area you specified, which is the Gulf.
That's new to me.
It was not called Canaan. It was not called not by Egypt. I mean, this area up to southern Syria was an Egyptian territory.
Yes,
under
it was under authority.
With
yes.
Egyptian garrisons.
Yes,
and military.
That's correct. That's also correct.
So in the records, it's called Regimen.
Retchenu is one of the. Retchenu is one of the words.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Egypt did not refer to that area as Canaan.
Okay.
Even more.
Let's call that region that we're talking about, because we do agree on the region, but let's give that name Retchenu, which is one of the names that you find for the whole region. Okay, in Retchenu, during the 18th dynasty, especially in the time of Tutankhamun, his general, the great general who became later the last pharaoh of the 18th dynasty, Horemheb, he went out there, just like they went out to Nubia to get the gold and the incense and all the other products, but he went out to the northeast to get people to work for Tutankhamun, to the construction work or the renovation work in the temples of Amun. And there was, of course, there were a lot of sanctuaries and temples spread all over Egypt. So he needed, especially Tutankhamun or his administration, people like Maya, people like Horemheb I, they needed people to work. So it could well be so. I'm not saying that there is the historical evidence, but it could well be so that also that tribe of Israel came into Egypt and especially worked in that region of the northeastern region that is called Goshen in the Bible. And then after many years they... Goshen, yeah.
There's no such place in Egypt.
No, that's correct. But I think in the Bible it's also mentioned they work in a place, Ra'ames, I think, if I'm correct, Rames, which could be Ramses' city, the Pyramesum, that is created in the beginning of the 19th dynasty.
Could be another interpretation. There were an Arabian tribe by the name of Bani Rames.
Well, we have, of course, an historical discussion here, but
in return, I'm telling you, there was an ancient Arabian tribe called Ra'amesa.
Yeah.
Ra'amesa. Twisting the Ra'amesa into the city of Ramses is like trying to enforce and project the story on Egyptian soil.
Many.
My professor, I'm sorry for interrupting you all the time, but the character of Moses and his way of leading the Israelites out of Egypt poses a lot of questions.
Yes, it poses a lot of questions.
When you leave the so-called land Goshen or Goshen, which I do believe that it did not exist. We had no such thing as Goshen or Goshen. When you go and you lead around 2 million people from a population of 3 or 4 million people.
That's quite a lot, yeah.
That's a catastrophe. That's quite a lot. That will lead to the fall of the empire.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the 18th and not 19th, the apex, the climax of the Egyptian empire. That aside, when you leave the so-called Goshen in the delta and you cross into Sinai and you wander for 40 years and then you go to the so-called Canaan, which is not called Canaan at all. This was all Egyptian territories. In other words,
it was.
If you were in America and you would exit from New York and you go to New Jersey and then to California, did you leave or exit the USA, America?
No.
Still on American soil. Likewise, when you leave the Delta, be it Goshen, I don't know, and you travel across wonders in Sinai, which was Egyptian land, and you reach the so-called Canaan, which is under Egyptian
colonized control. Egyptian land.
Okay, you're not exiting. You're in the same Egyptian, under the same Egyptian control.
Yes.
So where is the rationale of the exodus here? Where is the rationale? You're not exiting.
But as we know from other texts, sources from Egypt, especially when you go to the text of Wenamun, which is at the end of the 20th dynasty, the first years of the 21st dynasty, so we're around 1080 BC. You find.
You're shifting the timeline.
Yeah, that's 200 years later.
200 years in Egyptian timeline is a big deal.
Yeah, it is, of course. But I'm talking about the empire of Egypt that is declining. That area that we are talking about of Rechenu is not under control anymore of Egypt.
I want to say, please pardon me again. Yeah. The 10 plagues that led the Israelites out of Egypt, it was devastating. If it took place, that would translate into a sudden and complete fall of the Egyptian empire, not gradual fall, sudden collapse.
And when would that have taken place then? Because I'm feeling that you want to tell me something.
I want to tell you that the fall of the Egyptian Empire did not happen overnight.
Oh.
It happened gradually and slowly over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Because it was such a strong and deep culture and civilization.
Yeah.
You're talking about a tribe that you could conquer and overnight you will not see it again. You know what I mean?
Yes.
As if it was some Bedouin tribe.
Sorry for being now on the chair of the interviewer, but I just want to know then what your opinion is. Because what I say is that Exodus can be based on a few historical
Like what?
facts or words that we know. Such as, well, we know that Hormab went into that area of Syria, Palestine, to collect a lot of people and to let them work in Egypt, and so to force them.
So did Ptolemy the First. So what does it
means?
What has to do with the Exodus?
What it means?
This is bringing people into Egypt.
Yes. So and that has something to do with Exodus.
Because
the people...
Not expelling people. This is bringing people into Egypt to work.
Yes.
And you brought them in and the next day he kicked them out?
If that is the historical facts, I don't know. Because you know, to make a comparison, we are talking about sometimes for the Hyksos. The Hyksos, they conquered Egypt. No, that's that never taken place. They gradually came in.
Pivotal point here.
Mm-hmm.
What the Bible said about the place that on its soil the whole story took place. The story of Moses and Pharaoh.
Yeah.
In the Torah, it's called Mitzrayim.
Yeah, Mitzrayim.
Ancient Egypt is not called Mitzrayim.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
No, but
as an Egyptologist,
yes.
What was the native name?
Kemet or
This
Tawi,
is my question.
or,
What was the native name of ancient Egypt?
Yeah. Kemet or Tawi or those Tameri even. So it could be. So, but
where is Mitzrayim? Where is Mitzrayim in that? And what does Mitzrayim has to do with Kemet or Tawi or Tawi?
Just to give you the example.
We could call it any of the titles you said, or the names or the appellations, except Mitzrayim. Another point. In the Torah, they refer to the land as Mishpahet Mitzrayim. Mishpahet in Hebrew translates into the tribes.
Okay.
Tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Egypt was an empire, was not a tribe. The Bible is talking about a small tribe called Mishpahet Mitzrayim.
But once again, Mr. Ashraf, I feel that you want to convince me or to tell me something, that I'm wrong in thinking that Exodus, if it took place, that it was during the kingdom period of time.
This is not my intention. I'm bringing up maybe some points that have been overlooked for too long.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Like the letters of Tel al-Amal.
Okay.
The letters that were discovered, the correspondence letters between Akhenaten and other kingdoms. In one of those letters, it's a very important one.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the timeline of Akhenaten around 1400 BC.
1340 BC.
Century BC. One of those letters came from one of the one of the agents of Egyptian agents, begging the king Akhenaten to send military assistance because is being attacked. This letter came from one named Abdi Heba. And he begged the king by pleading this: save your city. Jerusalem is falling down. I'm losing Jerusalem. And when you specify this, the timeline of this letter in the 14th century BC, the actual day Jerusalem was not yet established. Again, it's very important.
Yes.
My question here, if there was some Egyptian agent with an Arabian name asking for military help from the king of Egypt, Akhenaten, at the 14th century BC, whereas Jerusalem, as we know it today, was not on the map yet. How do you explain this? How do you this?
Well, this is, I don't have an explanation for that, but I doubt that the word of Jerusalem is in that letter.
Dar Salam means Dar Salam.
Dar Salam.
Dar Salam. Dar or Shalim. Or in ancient Arabian and ancient Hebrew,
the letters were written.
It means home. It means the city of peace. The city of peace, or Shalim, or Salam, or Shalim, is falling.
These 371 letters that were found in Yagaif of Tel El-Amarna were all written in Akkadian language, in Cuneian form. Yes. And I remember from a long time ago that I read that translation on the Lib Adi, that I remember his name was, not mentioning a city called Dar es Salaam or something like Jerusalem or but anyway, if you are right, then we're talking about a time period of New Kingdom, still New Kingdom. And
my dear Professor,
yes.
New Kingdom is out. It's an impossible.
Well, tell me, in what period of time the Exodus would have taken place then?
I'm saying that the Exodus is a historical fact.
If it is,
it could have taken place in the New Kingdom because
when?
The time of the
before or after?
Not even before or after.
Okay. So when? It didn't take place in Egypt.
The whole scenario of the Exodus story, if it did happen in Egypt, it would only translate to the abrupt fall of the empire in a drastic way. Overnight. One more thing. One more thing. If Egyptians saw as first-hand experience those 10 miracles, those 10 plagues taking place, and they witnessed that the God of the Israelites had power over their deities, they would have converted immediately
to
the cult of the Israelites.
Yes.
But that did not happen. Egypt only converted to Christianity at the turn of the first century AD. Never to the Israelites' religion or Judaism. We had no Goshen. Canaan was not called Canaan. The Exodus scenario as a filmmaker has a start, middle, and end.
So if I understand
it starts in Egypt, in a land called Egypt, and in the Torah, Egypt is not referred to as Egypt, referred to as Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was not Egypt was not called Mitzrayim. Ancient Egypt was not called Mitzrayim. This is one part one. In the middle, the Exodus, it's talking about 600 people, not including women and children. Donald Bradford, the Egyptologist, is estimating the Exodus number around 2 million people. 2 million people exiting a land whose population was at the time around 3.5 million. What could you say about that? It's an abrupt fall.
As I understand it well, you say that the whole story would be to indicate that in a very rapid way the Egyptian civilization came to an end. That's what you say. But why should they use then in this almost imaginary story foreign people to leave the country?
What imaginary story?
Well, if it's or imaginary, or if it's not really based on real historical facts. Why? If it's all about the collapse.
You still talking about the Exodus?
About Exodus.
You call it an imaginary? Is it a myth? You think it's a myth? It's a legend?
I don't know. I'm more asking you.
I'm doubting its history.
You think it's a historical?
I'm doubting that it took place on Egyptian soil. It could have taken place on Arab land.
But why do they call it the king, the pharaoh? The pharaoh.
You raised another very important question, which was going to slip my mind.
Yeah.
As a revered and prominent Egyptologist.
Yes.
In your research and your years of scholarship and erudition, have you ever found the word Pharaoh referred to the king of Egypt as, or his title, original title, official title?
It's derived from Pharaoh.
I'm not questioning you about the etymology. This is your interpretation of how Pharaoh came to be from Pharaoh. This is the mainstream concept. I know about that. I'm asking your opinion. You have read too many cartouches and you read hieroglyphics perfectly. Have you found in a cartouche, royal cartouche, a king called Pharaoh or Pharaoh or Pharaoh?
Well, you find all over Egypt, you find these cartouches where it says Pharaoh, which is a...
Inside the cartouche?
Yes, you find it. Yes.
Where?
Yes, you find it. Well, in Ptolemaic time, but
Ptolemaic time.
Yes.
This was foreign times. Yeah. This was invasion time. This is the main point.
Yeah.
I'm talking about ancient Egyptian timeline. You're referring to the Ptolemaic, the Greek invasion of Egypt, when they could not pronounce the royal titles because it was so heavy on the tongue, the Greek tongue. So they prefer to calling the king as Pharaoh. This is new. This came with Ptolemaic. Ptolemaic is very modern.
Once again, I have the feeling that you try to tell me that the whole story, and that's quite objective, the whole story of Exodus didn't take place in Egypt itself.
Yes.
So not in the Delta, not into the Sinai,
and Sinai was not called Sinai.
And not during your kingdom. Well,
not any kingdom. Not
any kingdom. So yeah, it's very interesting. Egypt. I listen to you, and I'm very open to all the because I read about it and I tell you my opinion. If you ask me, what do you think? I tell you what my opinion is.
I'm not questioning. I'm not offending even. I'm not questioning the face of any followers of any religion, be it Jews, Christians, or Muslims, because we all believe in the story.
Yeah.
The religious side of the story we all respect. I'm doubting the geography of the story. It doesn't fit. Sir, the king of Egypt had 5 titles. None of them was Pharaoh.
Yeah, 5 names, yeah. None of them is Pharaoh, that's correct.
Our land, ancient land, was not called Mitzrayim. The king, the prophet of the Muslims, Muhammad, when he decided to conquer Egypt, he sent a letter to the patriarch of Alexandria, Al-Muqawqis, and he corresponded him by saying not to the chief of the tribe. He told him to the chief of
Copt. Yeah, Copt. But we're talking about 642 AD. So again, ages, centuries.
Yes.
Centuries after.
What you said, sir, in the beginning of our interview, Kemet, Hidkattah, Tawi, Tamri, these are appellations, descriptions of the land, but not the real name of the land.
And that was true, according to Plutarch, I don't remember anymore what he said.
He said that the land was called Coptus.
Copt, yeah.
And Copt meant
I think etymologically it's derived from Hud Kapta. Hud, which is the place or the house of the Ka of
This is the mainstream.
Which was Memphis.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You are repeating the same mainstream interpretation, and you're twisting the het ka b'dah as an Egyptian would have pronounced it. Het ka b'dah into
Hud Kapt.
Doesn't add up.
Which became Egypt finally. From Copta.
Egypt.
Yeah.
This is etymology from the phonetics point of view.
Okay, I'm open to another view. But what did Plutarch say about Copt? Where that was just given that name, or that would have been the name already from ancient times?
This was the name from ancient times.
Then we would have seen that in hieroglyphs.
It was the native name, the esoteric name of the land.
The esoteric name. So that means the hidden name, or the not spoken, or not. Yeah. Anyway.
No, Muhammad, the prophet of the Muslims, knew it.
Yeah. Because he wrote it in a letter to
he addressed the king or the patriarch of Egypt at the time as the patriarch of Copt. Then it was known all over the place by Arabians, by Muslims, by Arabs, by neighbors. And dear sir, when the Arabs conquered Palestine, it was not called Canaan.
It was called
Elia. Elia Capitolina. The Romans called it Elia, and the Arabs called it Syria. So we have no Mitzrayim, we have no Sinai in Egypt, we have no Goshen in Egypt, we have no economic collapse that would have logically followed the Exodus. You are trying to shift the timeline to fit the story that did not exist.
I'm listening to you. I'm listening, and I do respect your point of view. But I think we disagree. We disagree.
This means a lot to me. You are so open and open-minded.
Yeah,
I will keep silent now.
No problem.
Please respond.
But I'm really thankful.
Respond to Tal Amarna's letter. Respond to the letter of Muhammad. Respond to the etymology and the names of ancient Egypt. Not being called Mitzrayim once in the records.
It will be a bit too difficult to respond to that all in one interview, because you have to base it on facts and on the historical facts that we have and archaeological facts. And there's so much more research to do. But once again, in short, I gave my opinion on what I believe that historically could have happened when they refer to Exodus. And then once again I say it could be so that this Hebrew tribe called Israel came to Egypt by force through the army of Hormab, or even earlier in the 18th dynasty, and they left Egypt somewhere in the 19th dynasty. That's what I believe. If it is historical.
The Bible states unambiguously and clearly that the story of the Exodus starts with Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph being sold as a slave in Egypt.
And then they stayed for 400.
Some say 400 years, some say 240 years.
I think it's indicated 440.
It was a gradual increase in number, not like you say, or propose like Hormab did. I need people, give me millions or hundreds of people. This doesn't fit with what the Torah said. It was gradual. It was by
Sure. I believe that. It's not overnight. That's what
you're saying.
We agree on that.
True, it should have happened overnight.
Yeah.
And if the story of the Exodus happened on Egypt should have collapsed. Overnight too. You see the Arab
It didn't say. It doesn't say in the Exodus story that Egypt really was. It collapsed.
The land was devastated. And 3.54 million losing overnight 2 million of the working hands. 2 million.
Egypt is still there. So, and even the monuments are still there. So, if you say it was devastated, I don't agree. Or it must have been another culture, which I doubt.
Another culture.
Another culture that was devastated. No, it were the Egyptians. It was the pharaonic Egyptians that they refer to in the biblical story of Exodus. If it was a historical fact, I don't know. But to my opinion, it's clear that geographically wise, it is the country of Egypt. And historically, I would put that in, again, New Kingdom period of time. I think we disagree, but well, let's close here.